Hello, everyone. Thank y'all for joining the show tonight. Thank y'all for being here. I'm so excited. Make sure y'all share this in all the groups. Also, make sure you like and subscribe to the channel. Make sure y'all that are out there moderating for the channel tonight. Make sure you guys pay attention to the comments. When we get ready for Q&A tonight, make sure that y'all let people know to put their questions in all caps. Tonight, I have special guest Daniel Benoit. He will be coming on the camera with us in just a minute. So y'all make sure y'all look at the comments and stuff like that. Make sure everything's okay with that. And other than that, y'all, without further ado, Daniel, join us.
Hello.
Hey, Daniel, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. I'm excited to be here. I know you've been trying to get me on here, and I'm glad I'm finally officially here with you.
Yes, I'm so excited. Y'all, the reason I had Daniel to come on too, like I said, he is flesh and blood. I think he said he has an open mind when it comes to stuff, but for his experience has been, he believes them to be flesh and blood. But I wanted to make sure that I let other people come on the show as well because although I believe that the Bigfoot and Dogman are Nephilim, I still believe that we're all trying to learn from one another, all of our experiences with these creatures or beings or whatever you want to call them. They're all different. Some of them are very much the same. Then at the same time, I want to have you guys to be able to hear every possible theory as it relates to these cryptids as possible. And at the end of the day, you can kind of just take that little bits of information or bits of information that are kind of common denominators from each encounter, story, eyewitness, all that kind of stuff. You take it in. But I'm gonna go ahead and let Daniel introduce himself. Daniel, can you basically give everybody a brief bio of yourself? Tell them how you got into cryptozoology and all that good stuff.
Yeah, well, as you all know, I'm Daniel Benoit. I am the founder and lead researcher of the ECBRO, the East Coast Bigfoot Researchers Organization. I started out in this a little over 13 years ago, and you know, personally, I grew up in the wilderness. I grew up playing in the outdoors. I was a young child hunting with dad. So over the years, I mean, became very well familiar and acquainted with wildlife and the great outdoors itself. Um, but, I tell you, when I first stepped foot in this, you know, well, let me tell you what got started. A big part of what got me started is the Roger Patterson and Bob Gimlin footage from 1967. Um, and, like I tell people, I believe that's a big part of what got a lot of people involved. Maybe there's some things that happened before that too that people got involved, but that was a big part of what got me interested in looking into this, which started off as a curious, mind grew into a passion as I got more involved in doing the research and wanting to know more. Um, it wasn't long after being involved with this I became a knower, and that wasn't from no sighting or anything. It was just based off of some of the physical evidence that was enough to convince me. As far as seeing the Patterson footage, that was something that really intrigued me as well as fascinated me. But like I said, as far as my own physical research, as far as in the field, um, again, I didn't start off with no physical sighting or any activity. It's just some of the evidence that I found that opened my eyes to realize, okay, this, you know, some of these findings I came across, to name a few, various weird, odd, mysterious structures and formations that we come across. I still come across till this very day. Some things that we could rule out that okay, weather didn't do this. Little things like something with hands with an opposable thumb had the capability of
Mm-hmm.
doing such a thing. Um, and these little things are kind of what grew on me and had me looking into this whole phenomenon a lot further and deeper. I personally, one of the things that I started studying after I'd done some research in the field, my conclusion on Bigfoot in general, um, had me pointing towards or looking at primates, non-human species of primates. To name a few, gorillas, chimpanzees, and so forth. I started learning and reading and researching some of their behaviors and characteristics only because some of what some of the early theories that I was introduced to from others just by observing others, um, it sounded familiar. I said, wait a minute, this sounds like primate behavior. So that's when I started doing some research. I started comparing with a lot of what people are pointing fingers at when it comes to Bigfoot and the the alleged activity that people claim or believe that Bigfoot does. And then, of
Yes.
course, then on some occasions, some people have witnessed some of this. So that's where my start in all this kind of stared up, as far as the research into looking into various species of wildlife along with the primates. And then I want to be clear too, because some people think I'm trying to make Bigfoot equal with our non-human species of primates, which I'm not. I'm just doing a comparison. Um, Although I believe my personal thing is, which you probably get into ask me later, but while I'm thinking of it, um, Bigfoot, I believe he is some type of primate, um, undiscovered, unclassified. And again, I want to be careful when I say that because again, I'm not making him equal to one of our known species. I believe he's of his own kind, if that makes any sense. So, but
Yes.
but
All right. Well, Daniel, so when I was reading your bio, I read that you already believed that in Bigfoot and cryptids and stuff like that before you ever had an experience yourself. Can you tell us
yeah,
a little bit about that before we go into your encounters and stuff?
yeah. Again, it wasn't long after I really got involved with this. I know maybe this may not be enough for some people. It takes seeing something for them to believe. But personally, it's just some of the odd evidence and the mysterious evidence what I consider evidence, um, being deep in the woods and come across a whole graveyard, or I call it a graveyard, but a whole mass pile of deer bones. Why would a pile of deer bones be deep in the woods? And then seeing these various odd formations and structures. To be more specific, structures and formations of trees of various species twined and woven together. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and then hearing things, tree knocks. I hear them on occasions. Wood on wood. Some of them are harder and louder than others. Some of these is what's convinced me that there is some type of primate living in North America. Um, and that's what had me getting into and doing some research into our non-human primate species, such as gorillas and chimpanzees and so forth, and learning and getting familiar with their behaviors, their characteristics, their physical traits and so forth, and learning that they do this. I like after realizing this, I was like, wait a minute, there's no way we have a chimpanzee. There's no way we have gorillas. Although somewhere throughout history, yeah, the chimpanzees and some gorillas, they may have gotten loose from a zoo or something here and there, but I know that's not what we had. We had something much more than that because along with finding these odd things, I started finding the tracks. Um, I knew, you know, there's no other species known to man that's leaving very large humanoid bipedal tracks. Um, so some of these things started to become very noticeable. And I observed them. I took note of them. And these were enough to convince me, to make me believe and know that there is something here. So, and again, this was long before any kind of major experience or encounters, but just finding some of this basic evidence, as I call it, was enough for me. So, again, that may not be the case for many people. Again, a lot,
Uh-huh.
even your skeptics, a lot of you skeptics, when I talk with a lot of skeptics, well, I need to see some, I need to see a physical being, I mean, to each their
Absolutely.
own, but so,
Well, let me ask you real quick before I go into your first encounter. Um, Queen of to know, where did you do your research at? Where did you
well,
start
most of
researching?
my,
We haven't even got into it. But Queen, he's gonna go ahead and answer that real quick, and then we're gonna go into his encounters and we'll go into the research. But where was this? Was this mostly in Virginia, Daniel?
Yeah, most of my research is based out of Virginia. However, I've done a lot of, over the years along the East Coast. The second location, where actually I'm located right now, I'm actually up in Pennsylvania right now, doing some research. I've been working in a couple of areas, and Pennsylvania is a very large state with a large number of reported sightings and a lot of activity. There I know you can look on a database and everything else, but Pennsylvania, the research groups, there's several different research groups up here. One in particular, which I'll give credit to, is the Pennsylvania Bigfoot Project. They have their own state mapping project up here, which all their documents, all everything that you research based out of the state of Pennsylvania, they have almost every type of sighting or encounter marked. They actually have it on Google Maps. so,
Yes.
so there's various locations. My girlfriend is a part of that group, and she has been sharing these locations with me, and we've been visiting these locations and exploring them. Now, a couple of things. She took me to one spot where we did some good exploring for a few days, and I actually come across some tracks, and she saw them for herself. I said, "Look what I found." I said, "These, she saw how clear it was. Even though it was in the leaves, it was one clear, flat impression with the whole shape of the foot and everything." Yeah, I took pictures of it, and even like I compared to her the picture with what she saw in person, and I said, "You can see the
Wow.
pictures don't do no justice. The picture." And
They
that's the
don't.
case even with, so yeah, even with some of the ones I filmed the other day when we were out. I said, "Look," I said, "you could clearly see that this is a track, but the camera's not doing no justice. It's, and I got a
It
good
doesn't.
phone. I mean, huh?
No, I'm saying it doesn't because I've taken pictures of what I think to be dogman footprints before too, and taking a picture of it didn't do a justice to what the depth of it was, like in the ground, like on the dirt. And not only that, the
Right.
borders weren't as defined when you take a picture of that. So a lot of times, for size comparison, I found myself like having to like in that one instance because I it's not a case where I've seen footprints and stuff a lot of the time, but like during that instance, I had to like take something for size comparison and put it next to it. But a lot of people take pictures, they don't or remove the dirt or leaves around it, and that's very important as well. But Daniel, go ahead with what you were saying.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm always stating that to people because I want them to understand, like, hey, I am finding these tracks. Some of them, yeah, some of them stand out very well. But it depends on the terrain and the surface. And like you mentioned, any kind of leaf litter that might be in there. Sometimes I do take a
Hmm.
chance very carefully. I'll try to remove some of the leaf litter. Um,
Yes.
or in some cases, which I've done in the past, if I have it with me or available, I always try to keep plaster with me. But when I have the plaster, I'll take the dry plaster and sprinkle it in the track to where I can outline it and show the complete shape. I've actually done that in a trackway that I found some years ago. And of course, most of the time I use my camera phone, like I'm using my phone right now. And but I use this very same
Hmm.
phone when I'm out in the woods. It's a fairly new phone. I've only had it for a couple months now, um, but yeah, video wise, it does really great. But it doesn't matter. I
Hmm.
mean, like when it comes to tracks, it's a good high quality phone, but I guess it doesn't matter what kind of phone or device you have. The pictures ain't going to do justice, as far as showing the depth and detail. Um, Unless I have the proper tools when I'm taking the pictures of the track. Sometimes, yeah, a tape measure is good, to show different angles of it, but it is what it is.
Well,
But
I'm gonna have you, without further ado, I'm gonna have you go straight on into your first encounter, and then if you would want you to go into that, like just kind of build up from that point, and I'll ask you, tell me about your encounter, and then I'll go into the next questions I have as you go along.
yeah, well, I had a couple different experiences, but the one
Okay.
that's very memorable that I share often is there was a group of us. There was six of us all together. This happened actually back in May 3rd of 2014. Um,
Mm-hmm.
we were doing a group outing, a group camp out. I host them about twice a year. Most of them are in the state of Virginia. I do have one planned early. early of 2024 here in Pennsylvania. Anyway, after doing a lot of daytime hiking and exploring, we decided to plan a night hike on that particular day, that night, May 3rd. And after sitting around camp, like we started to head out because it was already getting late. It was still plenty of daylight out. For the record, there's a lake. It was approximately almost a mile from where we were camped at. Excuse me. And well, we decided, hey, let's go down to the lake and go check it out down there just for the heck of it, Surprisingly, there was nobody there because there's usually people there fishing and whatnot. They stock that lake every so often. But it was nice. There just so happened to be nobody there. That was perfect because, again, there were 6 of us, and we were able to pair up in twos and spread out around the lake. Yeah, we all had radio communication where we kept in contact. And then we had a couple of us had parabolic microphones where we were listening, and we didn't hear too much through them. I mean, the ridge up behind us, on occasions, we'll hear, some limbs snapping here and there. I mean, it could be the deer moving in for the evening and whatnot. It could have been anything. But there was one couple that was with us. They came all the way down from Vermont, and Kimmy and Darren were their names. And now, anyone who's familiar with Bobo from Finding Bigfoot, when he does his vocalizations, well, Kimmy, she's just a little thing. And I'll tell you, she has a set of lungs on her. but yeah, if you're familiar with Bobo, imagine a female doing the same thing that Bobo does. She was our version of Bobo. And so I radioed down to her. Yeah, she was awesome. And she gave her vocalization off. And after it was done, everyone stayed quiet and we listened. And I think it was probably a good 10 seconds, roughly, right after she did her vocalization. Somewhere in the distance on the opposite side of the ridge, at least that's where it sounded like it came from, we did get some kind of response, which was interesting. It wasn't majorly exciting, but it was something because, nothing else was going on. We weren't really hearing much out there. So it was getting late. Some time had passed by, and it was dark, and it was time for us to regroup. We had our headlamps on. We all met up back at the entrance of the lake. Well, at the beginning of the one end of the lake, and we had to walk back out to the main forest road. So we're walking along in single file line. We're talking at normal tone. We're not trying to keep quiet because our goal at that point was just to get back to the campsite. And so it was probably around just about midnight as we were leaving out of there. And as we're walking up, probably about between halfway and 3/4 of the way back out before we got out to the main quarter of the main forest road. What was interesting was over on the right side of the road was this deer that came walking towards us. This deer was probably around maybe 10 feet away, coming right towards us. And then it's like, wow. I said, well, this deer did not seem startled or anything, which was odd because a lot of times I come across deer, they're usually easily spooked and run off. But no, I just thought it was weird and odd, but this deer just came along and then turned off, walked off further into the darkness and disappeared. Well, it wasn't long right after seeing that deer, something else catches my attention, but on the opposite side of the road. And I'm looking over there and I'm seeing something reflecting. And, for the record, my immediate thought, because like I said, it wasn't in focus. It was just something yellow reflecting. And I thought it was one of these little metal yellow signs that you'll find in random locations, all throughout the national forest.
Yes.
And usually all they say is no vehicles beyond this point, which I'm thinking that's a very odd place to have something like that. But I'm still staring at it. And all of a sudden, it did become more in focus because next is it blinked. And that's when I realized it was actually a set of eyeballs looking at us. And before I say any more, the color of the eye shine they were large and yellow, but they were sitting kind of low to the ground. I called my buddy Tracy up. Tracy was the next one behind me. I said, Tracy, what the heck is that? And the first thing I said following after that, because it's the only thing that raced in my head, I said, is that a freaking mountain lion? I don't know why I thought that. It's just because it was low to the ground and, very bright yellowish looking eyes.
Oh my God.
And we're both seeing it. And then all of a sudden it zips off. It disappears. They're like runs off. And then we want to get back up to that spot because keep in mind, this was probably about maybe 30 feet, roughly, give or take. And Tracy gets the rest of the guys. I mean, the
Yeah.
guys, get up here. We got the eye shine up here. So we all get up into that same spot where me and Tracy both saw that set of eyes. And we're looking down in there. And keep in mind, it's real thick. It's very dark. And I didn't realize it at that time, but it was from the ground, from where we were standing off the edge of the road, it sloped down several feet and then leveled back out. And as we're looking down there, we pick up that set of eye shine again. We're looking right at it. It's probably approximately around maybe the same distance, another 30 plus feet, you know. And what was interesting was we didn't see no physical features. We didn't see no body, but you could see clearly those set of eyes. And whatever it was doing was constantly swaying side to side very swiftly. I was like,
Oh, wow.
what in the world is this? I had no idea. We had no idea what we're looking at. And even though we're looking down at it, we estimated this, whatever this is, can't be no taller than 4 feet tall. And it was still swaying side to side. Now, it wasn't long after noticing this one here, about 4 or 5 feet to the right of it, appears another one. But this one, same color eye shine, but about 2 feet taller. So it wasn't doing no movement. It was kind of like if it just came into view, just enough to show the eye shine. And same color eye shine, very, yeah, like a large yellowish. It was like yellow, very large looking.
Okay.
Yeah, both of them. They had the same color eye shine. Yeah, and again, this taller one, like I said, on occasions it would blink its eyes, and the only thing I think of, because our lights must have been bright, but bright enough where they were looking into it.
Yes.
But and so yeah, we're still seeing the small one. The small one's still swaying side to side, and then we have this other tall one. Again, we estimate 4 foot. Now we got one about 2 feet taller. So we got a 4 foot one, and we're estimating this one to be around 6 foot tall. So yeah, we're observing this. We're looking at this, and here I am. I'm very familiar with every known species of wildlife in this area. I've spent years in this forest here. I know I witnessed the mountain lions, and again, that's what my first initial thought was when I first noticed the first set. But no, I said, this is a little taller, and it's very odd, I know there's a lot of black bears in the area. We had, I've had some encounters with black bears, some close, some distant, both day and night. So I was like, these are not registering to look like any black bears or their behaviors, But so, I'm trying to run through my mind, like my internal database, like what in the world are these? I'm like literally puzzled. I was like, this ain't making no sense. But all of a sudden, while we still have these two here, everyone around me, again, they don't know. We're all just seeing the eye shine. We're not seeing no shapes, physical features, or nothing. And a couple of them were actually my buddy Tracy. I think it was him. He started making some noises, and like some weird noises to try to trigger a response or something. But while he was doing that, I'm looking over. I'm panning my eyes. I'm panning the rest of the woods, and behind some thick brush, some bushes, I'm looking down through there, and down on the ground, my attention gets drawn to the ground, and I see another set of eye shine, like literally down on the ground. And I'm looking at the set of eye shine. I do point it out. I make mention of it, and I'm focused on it. So I don't know who else besides Tracy, I think, acknowledged it. But I'm looking at the set of eye shine, and all of a sudden, this eye shine starts raising up, like as if it was crouched down or something. But it starts raising up, and it keeps going and going and going and going. And by the time it stops, it's towering. Yeah, it's towering over top of the 6 foot one by another 2 feet. So now we have 3 sets of eyes, a 4 foot, a 6 foot. Now we have this 8 foot set of eye shine. And at this point, Tracy speaks up and said, guys, we got squatches. Now, at that time, I wasn't even thinking about squatches or anything. I wanted to believe that, but I needed something more that's going to convince me that say, okay, we got squatches. It just, keep in mind, I'm still kind of scrambled and puzzled through all this. But for some reason, that tall one intrigued me because the eyes looked a little bit larger, a little bit more spaced apart. But again, the same color as the other two. And I'm watching it, and then all of a sudden, the large one made a maneuver. It appeared to turn to its left and take a step or two and look back. Now, when it did that, I believe the lights that we had on our head caught it at the right angle, and the position caught everything that I saw next. When it did that, very wide, broad shoulders and a big round head that was sitting on top of it. And when I saw that there, I was like, yeah, these were no bears. Definitely no bears. I didn't know what else to think, but yes, squatches. That's when Sasquatch or Bigfoot came into my mind. It's like, what else could these be? And, seeing very wide, broad shoulders and a big round head, after seeing that, I'm thinking, okay, I think we got a family unit here, I don't know. That's what I actually thought of later. Based off the sizes, thinking, okay, we got a juvie, a possible female, and a very large male. So after observing this, again, a couple of them were still making noises. A couple of them, there was actually a video of this, by the way. The one guy that was with us, Cliff Stanley, he recorded this whole session, which when I learned about this later, I actually got really excited. I was like, please tell me you caught everything we just saw. Now, after viewing his video footage, some people claim you could see the eye shine in it, but I watched it and watched it and watched it, and nothing in that video points toward or shows anything that we experienced. So it was kind of disappointing, but in the video, you could see our behavior. You could see the way we were reacting to this. Again, the only person that ever expressed any fear or nervousness was Kimmy. And she was seeing this, but she was like slightly behind me. And I don't know, it was just, I don't know, she was just being like, guys, she's like, they're going to come after us. I said, no, they're just curious. We caught them off guard, And then eventually they all disappeared further into the darkness. And when they disappeared, we turned off and continued back on foot to head back to camp. But of course, not long after walking away, I'm sorry.
What time of day or night was these encounters?
This took place just after midnight, May 3rd of 2014. So, yeah, and of course, we were hearing some limb snap. Yeah, we walked away. And of course, Kimmy was like, guys, they're following us, I said, no, I don't believe they were. I mean, because if that was the case, they would have waited for us to leave first and then walk away. But no, they walked away first. And then that's when we decided, since they disappeared further into the darkness, we decided to just get back to camp. Well, we made it back to camp, and we were still talking about that situation. Now, here's a very disappointing piece of information. We got back to camp. We were still talking about it. Me and Tracy Arnold, we both had backpacks. In our backpacks, we both had night vision binoculars. But not once during the whole situation did we ever think about pulling them out to get a better observation. So, so we were kicking ourselves in the butt over that. Why didn't we think about that? That would have been awesome to see something that we could throw out more details. But that just was not the case. It definitely was not the case. And so, but that's the story of 2014. And I want to go on and add about something that happened a year later in the same section of woods, but just around the corner. Yeah.
Real quick.
Go ahead.
Real quick question before you move on to the next, before what you get ready to say. How far were you away from those creatures when y'all were, I guess, standing off at a distance and seeing them? How far away would you say that you were?
We were easily anywhere between 30, maybe 40 feet. So I'm going to say within the 30-foot range, give or take. That was our estimation, because we actually did go back to that very same spot the next day just to go over our height comparison. And again, we were pretty accurate on our height and everything. So based off of where we were standing, because a couple of me and then Cliff, we were the tallest ones out of the whole group. while a couple of them stayed out by the forest road. So I would say, yeah, we were easily between 30 and 40 feet away. So,
That's not far
but
at all.
yeah, so about 30 to 40 feet. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, being out there, being in the woods, yeah, it didn't look like looking at the couple of the guys that were standing on the road. I was like, yeah, that wasn't a long distance, but that night, being that we were up high and they were back there, and this was after midnight and everything, I believe they were just far enough out of the view of light. It's the only thing I could think of why we didn't see no physical features, no details. The other thing I think about too is like, did they have black hair? Because to me that would make sense because they were it was so dark out that night that their black hair would be blending in with the darkness. That was my
Absolutely.
conclusion. I can't prove that, but that was what I keep thinking about. Feeling non. Oh, okay. Well, no. As far as the fear part goes, I personally did not feel any fear, and I believe the reason behind that was because there was others with me. I think if I was by myself during that particular situation, I think that would have been a little bit different. um, okay, what part of the state? If you're familiar with West Augusta, which is part of the over in the George Washington National Forest in Virginia, so that's where that took place at. There's actually a movie made based off of my encounter. It was on Paraflix. However, it is available to watch for free if you want to find it on YouTube. If you go to YouTube channel, Hometown Haunt series, you'll find the Beast of Elkhorn Lake. Yeah, you'll find a video called "The Beast of Elkhorn Lake." You can watch that. It's about an hour long,
Okay.
and it was a Bigfoot documentary based off of my encounters. So we actually did a very interesting investigation in that area. The individuals who filmed that, they are a paranormal research team. So it was very interesting with what went down, what we experienced while we were there. So yeah, I would recommend watching The Beast of Elkhorn Lake. It's a great film. This is my latest documentary that I'm featured in. But of course, another thing in that movie that you'll see that I talk about, which I'm about to bring up now, was my experience that happened just exactly 1 year later, but it was during the hunting season. It was in November of 2015. What day
Mm-hmm.
in November? I can't remember. It was probably, I would say, mid-December, somewhere around mid to late December. And again, in that same section of woods, but just around a corner, I was set up camp. There's a primitive camp spot just around a corner. And usually during the hunt season, there's a lot of people that come out there and camp during the hunt season. And surprisingly, even though there was a bigger site that was right before the site I was in, nobody was there. And there's no other campsites besides the one I was in. So I knew there was nobody
Oh
else
wow.
around. But yeah, and then when I was camping there, it's probably about 10 o'clock at night. I had the fire going, my vehicle there. I had my shotgun leaning up against my vehicle. And I'm just sitting there and it's quiet. And I'm actually very bored. I'm wide awake. I didn't feel tired. I decided to grab my spotlight and walk up to the middle of the forest road. Now, keep in mind, when I got to the middle of the forest road, I walked out there in total darkness. I did not have my light on until after I got to the middle of the forest road. But even then, I didn't turn it on right away because I have this habit, and I don't know why I do it. It's just something I do. I walk out into the middle of the road at night, listen, look around, and I don't know, kind of. I don't know. I don't even know why I do it, but I do it. But sometimes I like to do it and listen. Something about being in the total darkness and listening to the sound of the forest. But after a moment of doing that, looking at the tree line across from me, I pull the trigger on my spotlight, and I start off right away to my left. And as soon as I shine the spotlight in there, even though I didn't see it, you could hear the sound of a deer get kicked up. I spooked the deer from turning the light on. You could hear the deer run off, which I was like, okay, cool. I spooked up a deer. So I continued to pan from my left and over to my right. And when I got between the 1 and 2 o'clock position is when is what happened next is what I heard. I didn't see this, but I heard this, just like I heard the deer get kicked up and run off.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever was inside that tree line, I interrupted it or I spooked it or whatever you want to call it. But whatever was inside that tree line was very large, very heavy, and without doubt bipedal. It was on 2 feet and very heavy, because what I heard next was every step it took had a heavy crunch and a thump to it. And sometimes I describe it, but I feel stupid describing it as far as making noises. But it was like I don't know, like it's like I'm not going to try to imitate it. I sound stupid doing it, but if you can imagine the sound of a crunch and a thump, and the mass and weight as it stepped away. It wasn't a slow walk, but it wasn't a fast walk either. It was like just a normal, steady pace walk, and it went away from me. But when I was hearing this, it shook me to my core. Like, it had my heart up in my throat. That's how scared I was, because I was vulnerable. I was by myself. I was unarmed. My shotgun was back in the camp. The only thing I had on me was that spotlight. And when I heard this, I started walking backwards, occasionally look behind me to make sure I was going in the right way. And I was reaching down with my opposite hand to my belt loop, because I had my keys there, and I'd make sure I was pushing the button on the key fob to make sure my vehicle was unlocked, just in case I had to jump in there and take off. Well, I made it back into camp. I think I threw another log or two in the fire. And then all of a sudden, I just instantly calmed right back down. I sat down in my chair, and I was able to catch my breath. I was able to relax. And then I started replaying what I heard and what just happened. And I got to think, I said, if that meant any harm to me, it had every opportunity to come out, run, and sack me like a football player, But
yes,
it was going away from me. And now, till this day, I look at both situations, 2014 and 2015. And I question myself on this a lot, because, a lot of people believe that deer is a food source for Bigfoot. And so I questioned, I said, was it a coincidence that there just so happened to be deer there that close to them? Or did we interrupt something? So I think back to that, I believe that's a good possibility. I don't know, but I just thought it was interesting. A lot of people, when I share this, a lot of people say, yeah, I think you might have interrupted their dinner. So that very well may be the case, because again, a lot of people believe they eat deer, they feed off deer. So, let's see, and your eyes of deer turn on just until you go dark and silent. Yeah, that is also when the sixth sense. Yeah, absolutely, I agree, absolutely. So, but yeah, no, those are the two main encounters. I mean, I've had other little tiny experiences here and there. I've had a large rock thrown at me once before. I've heard a number of vocalizations over the years. Sometimes they in the daytime, but most of them were at night. Some of the daytime encounters were interesting. Well, I shouldn't say encounters, but the activity and the vocals I've heard. I've had tree knock responses during the daytime, which was interesting. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of little things, but over the years, one of the main things, besides structures and formations that stand out, one of the main things I continue to find over the years, I haven't found any really good ones in a long time, but foot tracks. Tracks is something that I am good at finding, because I made myself starting to find them because I look for them, I like to believe I'm very observant of the ground as well as my surroundings, on the most part anyway. So yeah, finding tracks, because I've been out with other people, and I literally would spot something and have to like stop people from trampling over. Like, I would throw my hand out. If there's other people walking with me, I would normally either put my hands out or telling them to like almost yell out and it's like, stop, I said, look in front of you. Look what you're about to step on. I've done that before. Just people are just steadily walking through the woods instead of taking their time to be observing of what they might overlook. But foot tracks is a good example. You got to take your time. If you want to find them, they're there. You just got to take your time and look. So, but yeah, that's just
questions. I do have some questions for you, Daniel, because you're out there doing field research. one of the things I want to know when you're out there doing research, I've heard like several encounters on different channels, people talking throughout the years talking about seeing seeing like you were talking about the strange structures in the woods, the trees and the branches or whatever wrapped around. One of the craziest stories I heard from a park ranger online not too long ago was he was saying that he had found some really large trees that were pulled up out of the ground, like roots and all, and the tree was slammed back into the ground upside down. I don't know if you've heard any strange encounters or anything like that, but what are your thoughts on that? Have you heard or seen anything strange like that, or have you seen any of the deer that people talk about out in the woods with the broken necks? Or we'll go into that one next. But the first question I would like to know, like, have you seen anything that couldn't be rationally explained while out there with these structures or anything like that?
Well, as far as what you were just describing, I can't say I personally have seen anything like that. As far as large trees that were uprooted and slammed back into the ground. Now I see small things like I see a lot of pierced limbs and branches that get pierced into the ground. Of course, a lot of that could be logically explained from break-offs from up above and then falling down and spearing into the ground from broken tree limbs. But as far as anything larger than that, I can't honestly say I've seen anything like that. I do keep my eyes out for very odd things like that. Um, most of the fascinating structures I come across, well, I should say one of my favorites is coming across what appears to be teepee type structures. Teepee structures, or anything that looks like a variety of species of trees that got woven together. That there to me is very fascinating. Um, if a person is doing that, why? It doesn't make sense. Um, but I like or tend to believe that okay, something other than humans are doing these because woven trees and branches it, it requires gripping and grabbing and something with opposable thumb. So um, again, I like to believe that Bigfoot's doing these. But yeah, those are the things I find fascinating. I can't say I've ever found anything too extremely odd. Or, I mean, thinking off the top of my head, I can't think or remember anything at the moment. But yeah, when it comes to structures and formations, teepee structures, woven formations, yeah, those to me are very fascinating. Um, and some of them, I don't know, some of the odd things when it comes to structures, um, a lot of times I notice I find them in clusters. You know, like you might see something here, you might see something 10 to 15 feet away, you know, and then sometimes it kind of reminds me of, you know, like a playground or a jungle gym, you know, it's like, yeah, it's just interesting. It's odd though, you know, so, but
What
yeah,
about
that's,
any like strange things, I guess, as far as like deer or anything like that being found out there? There's a few cases I've heard like where you see deer out with broken necks or like twisted limbs broken off of the bodies of like certain animals and stuff like that. Do you ever see things like that? Or so that's one question because I'm kind of getting all over the place too.
okay. Oh
But go
yeah,
ahead.
now as far as I mean, I've come across deer carcasses numerous times over the forest. But as far as finding their excuse me, not tree limbs, but their legs or something twisted, I have found twisted and snapped limbs before. Um, but in some cases, I have found their complete carcasses. Well, a lot of them, from most of them, are probably from coyote kills and stuff. Um, but yeah, on some rare occasions, I've probably only found them like once or twice. Again, twisted and snapped legs, you know, which I thought was interesting. So, um, oh, okay, this is an interesting question. Do I think the creatures are different in my area versus Oklahoma or Alabama or the Pacific Northwest? In my honest opinion, I will have to answer that and say yes. Um,
Okay.
size wise, Yeah, I would. One of the first things I would say would make them different is their size, um, and their boldness versus being more just shy or curious. Here on the East Coast, my honest opinion, and this ain't just from my experiences, but this is just from the some of the stories I've heard from other eyewitnesses too. It appears that they are very curious and almost shy at the same time here on the East Coast. But if you go out to the Midwest or wherever out to the Pacific Northwest, reports you hear them being larger. You hear them being a little bit more aggressive. So I think there is a difference, and I think that has a lot to do with the environment and the atmosphere. Like here on the East Coast, you think it would be a little bit more populated versus the amount of terrain and remote forest we have here. Versus out there in Pacific Northwest, there's a lot more remote forest out there, a lot more heavily wooded areas out there. Um, so I think it depends on their interaction with humans. How often do they come across humans and everything? But again, the size, I would say the other thing is the size, like I mentioned. Most of the reports and the encounters, I believe they are anywhere from 7 to 8 foot on average, based off of reports here on the East Coast. Again, out there in the Pacific Northwest, you hear anywhere from 8 to 10 foot on average. And then, of course, in other locations, if you want to name a few others, or just another one is Florida. They got the skunk ape down there.
Yeah.
I hear descriptions of the skunk ape being totally different than what's reported up here. So I think every location has a different description, or in most cases they are similar. But for some reason, some of them are different. We could actually in this way, I would say it's comfortable to compare them to humans when it comes to their attitude, their size, their living, their environments they live in. Because we all come in all shapes and sizes of different nationality, all the above. So and then some of them might look different or act different. It depends on how they were raised and what's their upcoming. So just like us. So, but
I always heard that the Bigfoot out like in the Pacific Northwest were like the largest ones. Have you heard that, or is there any truth to that? I don't know if you've ever gone out and done research out that way. Have you heard anything about that? Are they different out that way?
I've been out. I never researched out there. The most I've done, I've been flown out to Washington State before, but that's about it. I didn't get time to do any research out there. But you hear a number of reports from various people. Like, for example, go up to Alaska. It's believed that they have 10-footers, or some maybe even bigger, roaming the woods out there. But just from other people, friends and stuff that have witnessed them out there in Washington State and whatnot, have reported seeing them at larger sizes. So I tend to believe that has some truth behind it. So I personally can't say that for myself, but I do believe that they are larger out there. I don't know if this is a good way to put this, but it's like if you have a pet fish, you put him in a small bowl, he's not going to get any larger. Mm-hmm. You put him in a bigger tank, he's most likely to grow a little bit, more in size, because he's given that space. Now, I know this is a weird way to put it, but it's just being that there's a larger, vast area out there, there's more variety, a larger variety of food and other resources for them to strive off of, which puts them a little bit bigger. They could grow healthier. They could grow larger.
Yeah.
I think versus the availability of food sources and other resources that are here, in other locations. So, and then of course, just like people, our genes. There's some people, we have tall humans. We have people that are over 6.5 to 7 foot tall. Look at a lot of basketball players. A lot of them, not all of them, but a lot of them average 7 foot tall. And some of them got big feet. I went to school. I grew up with this kid. I grew up with this one kid named Sam. I don't know. I doubt he'll watch it, so I don't think he'll care if I mention his whole name. But anyway, his name was Sam Gresham. My father worked with his father, but we went to the same school together. And he was always a tall, slanky kid. And at age 16, 17, he had a size 20-foot shoe. Yeah. Um, yeah, he looks like a scrawny, tall bird, with big feet. you know, but yeah, I mean, everybody's different though. So I mean, we all come in different shapes and sizes. So, but um, so yeah, I think it really depends on the genetics, location. There's a lot of different little key factors that play key roles in a lot of who and what we are. And size and the variables. So if that makes
Yes.
any sense.
So it does. I wanted to know too, like with the structures, like I know you run across a lot of those. What do you think? And I guess I'm going to go into your theories about the. I want to go into talking about the flesh and blood theory, and I'll talk to you about that after this. But I wanted to know what are your thoughts, or what do you think that the purpose of the structures are? My personal belief, I think that the structures are, and I might be wrong. I think in some cases they're ground blinds to break them up. Like if there's areas where it's more open, so they can hide easier for whatever reason. They're able to blend in and camouflage themselves with the foliage. So, what are your thoughts on what those tree structures are for?
Well, for starters, with what you just said, I that's a big part of it. I agree with you right there. That's part of my belief on that. And you know, they may be the way I look at it. Maybe I believe they are type of temporary shelters, mainly for um, yeah, like say for they may use them like what we use them for. Because yeah, a lot of hunters when they go out in the woods, um, yeah, you could buy your own hunting blinds, but there's evidence that I could take you throughout the national forest and show you man-made ground blinds made from sticks and other pieces of wood. Because a lot of them they'll take hunters and other people. They'll find fallen timber and they will basically take woods. They'll make a little corner section or a square off wall or a lot of times, mainly for turkey, a lot of your turkey hunters will build little barriers, just enough to kind of cover their body a little bit. Um, and then again, I have seen other TV structures that were man-made, that were clearly man-made to it. And the evidence behind that is sometimes, and not always the case, you'll see cut, sawed trees or limbs. Um,
Okay.
but then on the other hand, like I said, I have found things in the weirdest places. Um, Different structures or formations that resemble um, almost like a teepee or a tripod with other crisscross trees and limbs over top of them. Um, I don't believe all of them are some type of shelter. I believe a lot of them are some type of marker of some sort. In some cases,
Yeah.
I like to believe or tend to believe that some of them might be signs of dominance or simple territorial markers. A lot of people believe that
Mm-hmm.
the X formations, which they fascinate me, I believe they are a type of territorial marker, but also have other meanings as well as signs of warning. Don't go beyond this point. Um, you know, Again, a lot of this belief, a lot of it's just it's more speculation than anything, but sometimes I tend to believe stronger on certain things based off of where and how you find them sometimes. Um, there's
Yes.
some things that I find very mysterious, and I want to be able to rule out other humans doing it. Um, but that's easier said than done sometimes. Um, but yeah, I think a number of these, again, there could be a variety of them, and a lot of our thoughts and theories on a lot of this stuff may be totally off wall. I mean, to what makes sense to us might not even be what it is at all. But so I don't know. It's interesting. Oh, all right. Daniel, have you heard of Todd Stanley's discovering Bigfoot? Yes, actually, I've seen that. I was actually very fascinated by that. He said, "What are my thoughts? I feel the Bigfoot shown seemed real. However, just my opinion." Wow. Okay. I'm going to be careful how I reply to this one because I'm going to tell you first of all, it was a very fascinating documentary. Um, You know, I know Todd Standing. He's been called a hoaxer from a number of sources, but at the same time, I don't know what their evidence is. You know, I know even the Finding Bigfoot guys call Todd Standing a hoaxer. Matt
Oh,
Moneymaker
really?
said it himself on the show. You know, yeah, back when it was aired, yeah, when they interviewed Todd Standing, and there was some video footage of. It wasn't on the Discovery Bigfoot movie, but it was some other video clipping or of Todd Standing's. Todd Standing, they met up with Todd Standing and went to his location where this alleged Bigfoot on a ledge was filmed. And then it follows up where they didn't believe it. They said, well, they called him. They basically straight up and called him a hoaxer on that. Of course, that doesn't give the legit authority by them saying that. I think a lot of people fell into that and went with that and believed that Big Todd was a hoaxer. Um, you know, don't get me wrong. There's a part of me. I'm not going to say I don't believe him, but then right now I'm at the point where I can't believe it. I have to stay skeptical on that there because it's hard to say because there's rumors that at one point Todd Standing was married to a woman who was a professional film. What do you? There's a name for that. I can't. She did professional makeup for film artists in movies and stuff, and she had some background experience and all that. So there was rumors that she was involved in it and did the makeup and the artwork on whatever was shown in Todd Standing's film. We don't have no proof of that. That's just speculation and rumors. But I mean, I don't know. There's a lot of people that stand behind Todd. You know, I want to because
Mm-hmm.
I'm one of those people that you know I'm one of those people I don't want to go with the crowd. I don't want to go where the rumors are. I like to try to be my own person on that, but it's hard to when you have so much negativity on that. If that
Mm-hmm.
makes any sense. You want something to
Well,
disprove the negativity. So but
you know what?
that's
My
just me.
thoughts on that. Well, when I think about it, like people are so quick nowadays to like try to debunk everything. It makes you kind of question it. Those shows like Finding Bigfoot and Mountain Men and Mountain Monsters and stuff like that. Any of the shows that are on TV, I seriously do not believe that they are out there really to be finding Bigfoot. And if they ever do happen to come across one, my thoughts are is that it's not going to be televised because there's a cover up as far as it's concerned. So
Right.
what I feel like is they're out there and they're doing these shows for entertainment purposes and to somewhat kind of make fun of the cryptid community, like in a subtle way without really blatantly saying, "Oh, this is a joke," but they're looking at it and showing you people out there like drinking moonshine and stuff like that, cutting up. You know what I'm saying? Like, so when you see that, it's just like, okay, they're doing this to make this whole topic or subject matter not to be taken seriously. So I just really don't think now,
Right.
as far as Todd, but I have seen some of the pictures that Todd Standing put out. I don't know. Like I will say that if that is real, and many people say that it's been debunked and it's been proven as a hoax, and I'm not sure, but I will say that some of the best pictures, some of the best videos. You have people in groups when it comes to pictures, and then I know, and I do understand that there's paranoia too. But when their picture's too good, then it's a hoax or it's photoshopped or it's CGI or now I guess what do you call artificial intelligence on some of these photos, but it's too bad or not good enough, zoomed in, pixelated, and all that kind of stuff. Then there's the other side of that where you get people like blasting you for bad pictures. So where's that fine line, and what should be the criteria for judging when something is fake or not, or is it easy to do so without being there with that person at that time on that property? What do you think?
Right. Yeah, there was one thing I was going to touch on that you mentioned as far as the oh man, I hate when I lose my train of thought. And I have my notebook here and I forgot to write it down. But um, let me
Yeah.
think for just
So
a second here because there was something I was going to touch on that you mentioned. Um,
okay.
yeah, oh yeah. Well, first of all, right off the back, oh yeah, a lot of these shows that are on, you said it yourself. Oh, and that's a big part of it. I can honestly tell you that yes, it's all entertainment. However, there are some which, in Expedition Bigfoot. Well, if first of all, I've talked and discussed with other people, I do a comparison with look at Finding Bigfoot. Okay, there was five of them. When they all went out, there was a large production crew that went out with them, and you don't see that. They don't show that part. So
Yes.
yeah, there's a big group of people that go out. Yeah, they find some things here and there. Of course, they got to play the music before it goes to commercial to give you that. Oh, they found something. We can't wait to see it. No, they're keeping the viewers
Yes.
watching. Um, and then
Well,
let's
what about
jump to
that time when you had
Expedition Bigfoot.
okay.
Oh, go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say kind
Oh
of
no,
like
I
that
was just gonna
time you
say
had was it Bear Grylls or whatever, the one who was out there and actually ended up catching accidentally catching a Bigfoot on film. I remember it was Bear Grylls or one of those guys. Y'all know in the chat,
I'm
y'all. Go ahead.
I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not sure on that one. But yeah, as far as the show Finding Bigfoot, um, looking at Expedition Bigfoot, and this is just my opinion, but when I look at this, I call Expedition Bigfoot Finding Bigfoot 2.0. It's like an upgrade to Finding Bigfoot. Um, and to be more specific on why I'm saying that, one, they're showing, they're using a lot more high tech equipment. Yes, it appears that they're producing and capturing images and what's believed to be Bigfoot on film through thermal imagers and using their technology. Some of them do it. It does appear that they're catching stuff, or you're hearing them experiencing things. You get to hear more vocalization. So the show, it's more captivating. It's more captivating, but there is a side to it that is all entertainment. They got to do what's necessary and to provide that thrill for the viewers to keep viewing. Um, yeah, are they ever going to find Bigfoot and capture him? Who knows? As far probably not. But look at what they've produced so far. Assuming that's real, assuming that their thermal images are actually capturing something running through the woods. Some of their evidence, if it is real evidence and not hoaxed by the producers, it looks pretty legit to me. I mean, it's got me fooled, but
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, a lot of these shows are strictly entertainment. Look at Mountain Monsters. No, I don't even know if I want to get into that one. I'm a different view on Mountain Monsters. I like
No,
watching them; they're fun to watch. But yeah,
no, that is funny to me. I watch it for entertainment
Survivor.
purposes. That yeah, they were answering my question. I
Yeah,
said, what
absolutely.
did I say? I said Bear Grylls, but it was Les Stroud. Les Stroud was the one who caught one on camera.
Les Stroud.
Yep.
Now I don't remember. I'm not sure if I've seen that one, but there's one thing about Les Stroud. I find him very fascinating too because he's skeptic, but yet, he tries to look at things in a serious sense. There's one thing that he said, I'll never forget what he said, and I bring it up and I share it to people sometimes. Sometimes with my presentations, he once said, "Don't fall prey to deception," and I don't know, something about that phrase, that quote. It stood out to me. Is again, he said, "Don't fall prey to deception." I guess the best way to put that in in another term is don't be gullible, don't believe everything you see. Just like social media. If it's online, a lot of people don't believe everything that's online. Because for example, there's video footage out there that's gone viral, but if you recognize that film, you find out who originally made it. I mean, there's people out there. I don't know if you ever heard of Sunny Vader. He's a known hoaxer. He, in all his different Bigfoot films, look at the Bigfoot, look at the locations. It's the same Bigfoot, same human face, long shaggy hair. The newest one he's got out right now. Somebody shared it on their YouTube channel or their TikTok, and it's gone viral. And I recognized it right away. I'm very familiar with this guy Sonny Vader's work. This guy, he puts out stuff using the same Bigfoot, and it gets used in different video scenes. On the latest one, there's a picture of caution tape in there, and this Bigfoot guy is supposedly just up on the hill throwing a log out. A lot of people don't realize. Come on, isn't there a red flag there? Just so happens to be a camera set on that right there. What's the camera doing there? What's the camera catching the same guy in all the different woods and scenario? Well, again, that stuff like that goes viral all the time, and it gets used for clickbait. People that use this is like, well, they know people are going to watch that content, and so they're making money off of it. There's nothing wrong with making money. I mean, I got a monetized YouTube channel, but I don't hardly make anything off of it. But but that's just the way it is, I guess. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff that's out there.
Well, when you look at it,
yeah,
I mean, like, as much work that gets put into the research. You go out and do field research. You have your equipment. I'm sure you have a team that goes out there with you. Everything that you need, I guess, like night vision goggles, all that kind of stuff. So it's necessary in addition to the time and hours you put into like creating podcasts, do shows and stuff like that. So we do deserve, because it's like, whether it's for us putting the information out there for people's knowledge or entertainment purposes, we're still providing a service to people who not had encounters, who want to know more about what we've come up against, like out there in the field. But going straight into it, I want to get into one thing that I wanted to ask you, because it's so many different areas I could go into, but I do want to ask you, there's different lines of thought and theories when it comes to these things. Some people think that they're interdimensional beings, beings from inner Earth, aliens from another planet. My belief is they're flesh and blood and supernatural at the same time, because of some of the things that I've witnessed with Dogman over the period of 2013 to 2020. So over a 7-year period of things I've recorded and seen them doing on camera. But so you have that aspect, and then you have the aspect of people thinking they're aliens from other planets, and then flesh and blood theory. Would you say that you're more along the lines of being a flesh and blood theorist when it comes to these things? And why? What makes you feel that they're strictly mostly flesh and blood?
Well, my honest opinion, and I'll keep it simple, is yes, I honestly believe that they are flesh and blood, only because, well, for a couple of different reasons. One is, I am finding physical evidence, and for those who have witnessed in person of the Bigfoot subject himself, yes, we're seeing it as a flesh and blood creature. But on the other hand, a majority of us have not seen anything to say otherwise. Yes, I've talked to several other eyewitnesses who claim to have seen, I can't think off the top of my head, seen or experienced something very strange. I guess, for example, the mind speak. Some people sense things. I personally have not experienced anything like mind speak, but when I'm out in the woods, the one thing I can say that I do, sometimes I feel like an energy, like certain areas I'm drawn to something. Some people say that could be a natural thing, which maybe it is. I don't know, but I do experience it. My girlfriend says what I'm experiencing, you're feeling the energy in that area. And that may be the case. It's, I don't know. Sometimes I feel like it's a natural thing, like something's telling me about that area. I'm either feeling a positive vibe or, it could be a negative vibe. But most of the time, it's just more of a curious vibe, But so, I mean, for the time being, I'm going to remain flesh and blood in my mindset. But I guess I've gotten to the point where I keep an open mind to where I have hopes of wanting to experience something more. If it's there and if it's available, I do want to keep that thought, keep that thought in my mind, like, okay, maybe they are this. Maybe they do come from outer space. Because, there's that theory where people believe that they are alien of some sort, where they got brought here. If that's the case,
Absolutely.
I would love to find evidence of that. And that's another thing where I'm finding right here in the state of Pennsylvania where I'm at. There's a lot of UFO and a lot of UFO sightings. I've have
Hmm.
witnessed. I have interviewed witnesses. Excuse me. That have actually claimed to see the UFOs up close and seen aliens. Pennsylvania
Hmm.
has a lot of strange stuff up here, and so I try to take advantage of that. I want to look into this. I don't hear about a lot of this elsewhere, but in the state here in the state of Pennsylvania, there's a lot of strangers there, and so yeah, it's actually opened my mind, be a little bit more curious on those various things. Um, I'm not going to deny that we have aliens. I want to believe that they are here. Because again, I had some good friends that witnessed that. Older friends.
Hmm.
For example, I'll speak John Stasko Jr. He's actually one of my speakers for an event that I'm hosting up here in Pennsylvania a month before my
Yeah.
Virginia Bigfoot conference. He's one of my UFO and alien eyewitnesses. So um, he has a very convincing story. I don't know if it's just the way he tells it, but I've heard his stories and his experiences on a few occasions. Because he shared it at other events that I've been to, um, and actually he took me and my girlfriend. He took us on a little tour where he actually brought us to the exact locations where he's witnessed these aircrafts and UFOs, and where he's seen what he calls the grays.
Hmm.
Um, so it's interesting. I just don't know where else to go with all that. But it's I want to continue to keep an open mind and hope that maybe I see something more where I could say, "Hey, John, I'm right there with you now." you know. So I don't know. Time will
Well,
tell. But
absolutely.
so.
Well, it is so many different areas to go with this, and like I said, oh, somebody had something good. I'm gonna just write that down because y'all, Daniel, before I keep asking questions and stuff like that, was there anything that you wanted to share or tell before I start asking more questions? I don't want to miss out, like cut you off on anything that you might
Um.
additionally have to share too with your research,
Oh.
because I've got a bunch of stuff. So you
Um.
just, if,
mm, Yeah. No, I'm okay right now. As we get into other things, I may bring stuff up. But yeah. so
okay, well, so
yeah. So yeah, you
what
can
did I,
feel free.
what did I just ask you? I'm all over. Okay, so I was asking you about what your thoughts on what they were. So, like you brought up a few things, like you brought up mind speak. Infrasound is another thing that can be brought up in, I guess, what people in the cryptid field call the woo. Mind speak with
Yeah.
infrasound, and then the fact, and I'll say the fact because I've seen it for myself. Like, so it may not be a fact for all, but I'll say a fact because from what I've seen with, I've never seen Bigfoot, but I've seen Dogman. Um, but I've seen them appear, like manifest, like materialize and dematerialize, like right before my eyes. And I even had a video of it
Oh
once, but
wow.
I ended up accidentally like deleting that off of my phone by accident. Then I don't know if you've ever heard of where I've talked about on some of these shows about that loud, extremely loud metallic noise that is so loud. It sounds like if you took like an industrial strength metal dumpster and dropped it from thousands of feet in the air down onto concrete. Like, and there's been quite a few people to talk about that. Well, you don't hear that too often, but I know when Kumbo, and I don't know if you're familiar with Kumbo, but Kumbo came out to that property and he confirmed, said, yeah, there's definitely dog man and some cryptids here. He said, this tree right here, we had stopped in front of a tree. He said, this tree is a sentinel tree, and I didn't know what that was. And I was like, what is a sentinel tree? So he parted the branches of that tree and said, look here. He said, you see how all the bark and all this stuff is like pretty much like completely clean. He said, this is where they will a lot of the time sit and perch and watch people and kind of they're doing in the neighborhood and stuff like that. And so I the strange thing about it was that I didn't tell him at that point until he said that at that moment because I don't know why I just forgot, I guess. But That was the exact tree that the dog man was standing in front of the night that I had that very first sighting encounter. But I didn't tell him that because I just forgot. I was just taking him back there to explore and like show him some things and talk to him about the story and like see if we found anything back there in those woods. But it was just interesting that while he was there at that time with me, that was, I'm gonna say, probably the second time that I'd ever heard that loud metallic crash. And before it happened, though, what was really weird was that the hair stood up on our arms. We were like standing back there, and there was not a creek, but a pond in the back of the woods. And so we were standing back there, but right before that loud metallic crash, we both
Hmm.
looked at each other, and the hair stood up on our arms. And I said, "Do you feel that?" He said, "Yeah, they don't want us here." And right about that time, immediately, the loudest crash ever like happened. And there's nothing that should have been making that sound in the middle of the woods. Not But
Wow.
that's just one of the things I was
Yeah.
wanting to bring up to you about them. Like, what do you think? I'm sure you've heard people talk about, like, I call it the predator effect, or you probably heard some people call it shimmer. What do you think about that? That's another aspect, Bigfoot and Dogman.
Yeah, kind of like referring to like a cloaking, what some would refer to cloaking. Yeah.
Yeah, like on Predator.
Yeah, I hear. Right. Okay. I mean, I personally have not witnessed or observed anything similar or related to that. Um, Although, a lot of my friends or other eyewitnesses claim that some had claimed to have seen weird things, not full apparitions, but smaller things, which I don't know. I mean, they've seen smaller, glimmer-looking things, shimmering things, which I don't know what that would be if it's something smaller. Um, but yeah, I mean, I'm familiar with what it is, but as far as witnessing that, I can't say I have. Do I believe in that? Well, I'll put it this way: I have to say no, only because I haven't witnessed it, or I haven't seen anything
Mm-hmm.
that would support it on my end. So if you've seen it, I'm not going to call you a liar because, like I said, I have
No,
friends
no.
that seen things. I wasn't there. I wasn't there, so I can't say that it did or did not happen. Only like the truth is
Excellent.
in the eye of the beholder. So um, so yeah, if somebody witnessed something,
Well,
they've
no,
seen
and I
something.
understand that.
But
I understand that because, like, for some
so
people, seeing is believing, and everybody's experiences are not going to all be exactly the same. Where if I did ever have mine speak, it only happened maybe twice, um, as far as
okay,
dogmen were concerned. But I'm not a person who is one of the people, and I'm not judging the people because it's just not been in my experience. But there's some who say that they frequently speak to Bigfoot and Dogman, and they come to them in dreams, or they manifest and appear in their homes, and all the other kind of stuff. They go out there
yeah.
and feed them and stuff like that. Gifting. What are your thoughts on gifting? Do you do that, and do you feel like that is a dangerous thing to do?
Well, it's funny you mentioned dangerous thing right there, but gifting, I'll say yes. I'll say yes and no. Uh, I believe it's fun to do that, and it's also a good experiment thing to do. However, I believe there's people that use food, leaving food out and stuff. I believe that could be very dangerous. Um, Depending on where the food's left, or doesn't matter if you're leaving food or not. The one thing we have to consider is our other wildlife. If we're leaving food out, if big if Bigfoot's not taking it, what else is taking it? And then again, we have to ask ourselves: does our food, could our food, um, um, what you call it? Could our food be harming them? Do they have allergic reactions? Then again, on the other hand, um, by leaving food, you're creating a habituation area. And if you keep leaving food out there and whatever's coming in to do this on a regular basis, I would consider if you stop doing that, then you may have created a problem or could have created a problem. Um, like for example, like say your house is, you got woods in your backyard and you leave food out every night for whatever's coming to get it. If that creature or whatever it might be, if they have tendencies to be aggressive or become angry, Could they become vicious or
Yeah.
dangerous if you stop doing that? So that's the way I look at it. But now, as far as using, I guess you would call it artificial or natural objects, like sometimes I played around and I left, you know those beads you put on string, and you know, and make necklaces and stuff. I mean, doing
Yes.
little trinkets and stuff like that, I think could be fun. I've done rock stacks before. I made my own rock stacks just to see if there was interaction on them. There was one time where I would visit this rock stack on occasions, and sometimes I would come back out. Well, there was a couple weeks later, I came back to this one particular rock stack. The top rock was down on the ground. Well, I put it
Yeah.
back. Came back a week or two later, a week and a half later. This time, the rock stack was down again, but there was a big turkey feather laying right in front of the rock stack, which I thought that was actually very interesting. I took that
Oh,
that feather,
wow.
put it back on top, and the rock, and put it back. Something was interacting with me. You know, I was like, "This is cool." You know, I just see those are just little fun experiments I like to do. Um, yeah, so I've heard some people like to leave little toy cars, and other shiny objects. My only thing on that's fine, but birds like crows, for example, and maybe other little critters, they get fascinated by seeing that shiny object. They might take and fly off with it. So your item you
Yes.
left there might have got picked up by a bird. Um, so, but now if something gets taken and then get left, now that there, I feel like that's more likely. Okay, something's interacting with you. It's not just taking it. Um, you know. Um, so yeah, I do believe in gifting. I believe there's a safe way to do it. Just anyone that practices it, I would take consideration or just be more cautious about what you're doing and where you're doing it. So, um, so
Now, Daniel, I'm gonna take a question real quick from Man of Light because I missed it. I didn't miss it earlier. I pulled it up for that yet at that. But he wanted to know earlier: have you ever seen a Bigfoot or a dog man manifesting on a tree? If I got that wrong, Greg, you just repost the question down in the chat. But have you ever seen anything that you thought was manifesting in front of the tree or behind the tree, or anything like that?
I honestly, yeah, I honestly can't say I ever have. I do see a lot of things out in the woods that look weird, but I've never seen. Um, yeah, I can't say I've ever witnessed anything like that. But yeah, I'm curious to check out that photo that Bernard's talking about. So
Let me see.
yeah,
What
that
did
would be
Bernard
interesting to
say?
see that. I'm not familiar with that one, but um, I
Bernard,
saw one gentleman
if
you
you
put up here.
can,
Yeah,
well, I was just
I'm
going to
sorry.
tell
Go ahead.
Bernard real quick. Bernard, if you could either send it to me on Messenger or put a link or something or the title of the video down in the chat. You said David Plight. He said a photo of a cloak in one of his movies. Could you share that to me on Messenger? Or, yep, share that on Messenger, and then I'll share it with Daniel if you have it. But go ahead, Daniel, what you were saying.
Yeah, no, I was going to make mention. There was a gentleman you put up earlier. His last name's Turner. I was actually trying to look at him because he said Virginia is his home, and I was trying to see if I recognize him because, well, I don't think it's anyone I grew up with, but I went to school with some Turners, so I didn't know. I was just curious to know what part of Virginia he lived in. So,
Mike Turner, what part of
yeah,
Virginia
Mike
do you
Turner.
live in? So I'm just waiting for him to
Yeah, because
respond
okay, I'm seeing his
back.
face. I don't recognize his face, but yeah, I went to school and graduated with some Turners, but so.
What year did you graduate
Yeah,
to,
so
Mike?
I graduated back in '98. So
Oh
yeah.
my God, we graduated the same. We're the same age then. We graduated the same year. I
Oh,
graduated in '98
nice.
too.
Oh, very
Yes.
awesome.
So, but
I'm
you're
just
in the
curious,
East
what
Coast.
state? Where are you based?
You're
Yeah.
Alabama.
You know. Oh, Alabama. Okay. All right. Very cool.
You
I have never been down
heard
that
of
far south. Yeah, I've been to the
have you heard
furthest
of
south I've
Space
been
and
to.
Rocket Center?
What's the name?
Space and Rocket Center or Redstone Arsenal Military Base?
It sounds familiar. It sounds familiar. Yeah.
Yeah, so
So
the
yeah.
Space and Rock on Civic Center, all that kind of stuff. Those are like what one of the main things at Huntsville, Alabama. So that's far north
Oh.
Alabama.
Okay. Oh. Okay.
So that's where I'm from.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I've been down to I, for the last three. No, actually, the last 4 years, I've been coming down to. I go to South Carolina almost every year, but that's the farthest south I've actually been. So. Well, I take that back. I've been to Atlanta, Georgia, because when I got flown out to Washington State, well, the plane it flew out of Charlottesville, Virginia, down to Atlanta, Georgia. So I spent 2 hours in Atlanta. That's about it. But I was actually at the airport. So
Hmm.
yeah.
Now, did you, let me see. What was I going to ask you? So, with your research, like with you doing research, your East Coast Bigfoot Research Organization. So you're not just only just for one state. You go throughout different states when people call you to come out and investigate their property and stuff like that to help them out, or do you do any of that, or
I do
what does that
if I'm
entail?
yeah. Now I mean I've done independent research along different states in, here on the East Coast, but now I have gotten a lot of reports from other people. It A lot of my travel is based off of my funding. If I'm able to, or if I'm able to have the time, or currently right now, I'm able to have the time right now. But my project right now, I'm working out of Pennsylvania here and covering these different locations up here. And but yeah, like I said, I've done some research in North Carolina. I've done some investigating in South Carolina. Um, as far as northwise, I've been apart from Pennsylvania. I've done Rhode Island. Um, let's see where else. West
Hmm.
Virginia. I've been out. I actually have been out to the Midwest. I've been out to Illinois, Southern Illinois. Actually, one of my
Hmm.
Bigfoot film documentaries came out of there too. So, um, let's see. Tennessee. I've done a little bit in Tennessee. Yeah, and Kentucky. I've been to Kentucky. I'm trying to remember. No, I don't think I've done any actual research in Kentucky, but I've been in Kentucky a couple different times. So I've done, if anything, I've done very minor. I wouldn't even consider it research, but I've done some exploring around one of the areas I stayed at before. Um, but yeah, but if somebody calls me up,
Yeah.
like I've had people want me to come investigate locations and stuff. I think North Carolina is going to be my next um, target location to spend some time in. But as of right now, I'm working out of
Yeah.
Pennsylvania. So, but yeah.
Now, I
Oh, oh no, I'm all right. Go ahead.
okay. Somebody wants to join on with us real quick. Are you okay? Josh Turner wants to join us real quick.
Oh yeah.
All right, hold on just a second. And while I'm joining him in, I wanted to ask you also if y'all make sure y'all put y'all's questions in all caps real quick, y'all. Put your questions in all caps. Where it is, I'm not gonna keep out, but I'm gonna in real quick to the stream. So,
Hey,
Daniel, hold on just a second.
would you be okay if I disappear for 1 quick minute?
Absolutely. At 5 minute break. And then after that, we'll shut this down right in about 30 minutes. But yeah, you can go ahead and take a 5 minute break if you need one. And then we'll reconvene right after that.
Okay, no problem. Yeah, I'll be back very shortly. So, all right,
Okay. Yep. Go ahead. See you in a
all
minute.
right. Thank you.
Uh huh.
Good evening, primals.
All right, I'm back.
Hey, hello?
Hey, how you doing, Mr. Turner?
Hey, what's going on, Daniel? I just was patched through by Bettina, and yeah, my nephew was in there in the chat, so I don't think we've met formally.
Okay, I know the name, Josh. Yeah, your name sounds very familiar.
Yeah. So I don't know a whole lot about you. I just had a couple questions, and I'm driving. I can't really type or whatever. So I was gonna.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I can't see the chat.
All right.
I think it was.
Yeah,
So
I was looking at, well, before I got back on here, I was looking at the chat briefly here, so yeah.
Yeah, so I had a question for you. You know, how do you? Because you're a flesh and blood aper, right? You're an aper, considered to be an aper.
On the most part, yes.
Yeah. Well, I mean that's a terminology that my aper friends they call themselves apers of flesh and blood. So my take on it's
Right.
a little different. I'm not an aper for sure, but I might have been at one time, I guess, because I just kind of thought, you know, this is probably what's going on. And I had a flesh and blood dogman encounter, but I never knew 100% what it really was. And then it made a lot more sense when people started. Sorry about that. Somebody almost rear-ended me. When people started coming to me, you know, with encounters that were not flesh and blood, and then it became more and more and more and more. And I would go, you know, on a show, and I would talk about their encounters, but this person wanted to kind of, you know, create a narrative saying, well, no, they're really not nothing but these upright walking wolves. You know, they're not an humanoid type creature. They're just a cryptid that walks on its hind legs, which is really ridiculous to me, dog man. But I've extended that the belief over the years more and more toward Bigfoot because of all the reports we get of the weird, strange behavior that goes on around them. And I've even written a book about it called The Bigfoot Phenomenon. And I did a project with Barton Nunley, the author from Kentucky, and what was really telling for me was we did a series of interviews with people. We did like 10, 12 interviews, but by the time we got to the fifth one, everybody we had talked to had had some sort of encounter, whether it was ghosts or alien abduction or something that was beyond Bigfoot, and they would see Bigfoot because, to me, I don't know, there was something else going on. They weren't just seeing Bigfoot. There was a reason why they were having these encounters, and it made me think that there's more to the Bigfoot phenomenon than what we're getting from these so-called just flesh and blood eyewitnesses. Those are everywhere. People see them all the time, but I just think that there's more to the Bigfoot phenomenon than just seeing a giant ape-like creature. And then the evidence, there's such a lack of evidence. And I get reports all the time of people gifting, like you were talking about gifting, and that they'll be like, oh, I left something out and then they gave me a feather of a bird, but there's no way to know what that is because, crows do that too. Crows will literally leave like a feather or something, or, and they'll trade. They literally do that. They're very, very smart birds. Raccoons too, if they see something shiny, they'll take it. And people will be like, oh, well, that's proof that this Bigfoot is a flesh and blood creature that grabs things, takes things. Not necessarily, And then you got to wonder, like, some of the reports we get, it's like there's something in between physical and spiritual. Like they're not either one. They're just, or maybe they're both. And photographs now don't do anything because it's AI. I mean, anybody can fake a photograph now. It's pretty much rendered them useless, which for the last few years, I've just been pretty much ignoring photographs because that doesn't mean anything now. I mean, it's useless. You can take a photo.
Oh, yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh, yeah. I was just gonna say I agree. Unfortunately, it's sad. It's very sad that AI has taken over social media because a lot of people believe in that stuff and think it's legit. Video footage, it's the same way. I've seen a lot of video. People produce AI videos, which is, I mean, if you've used AI enough and gotten good, people have gotten good with it. The technology that we have today is really hurting the whole community, regardless of where you stand on it all. So, but yeah, I agree with you. And I've told other people, even though I keep an open mind about the different aspects of what people believe in or may have claimed to have witnessed, other than flesh and blood, activity. I've always believed that Bigfoot is one species that we cannot underestimate. I do honestly want to believe in more, and then the more I do hear from people, that have experienced something, and then the way my girlfriend experiences things, I don't want to say it's convincing me, but it's pushing me more towards a stronger consideration of a lot of this, so if that makes any sense. But
well, one of my best friends in this field is Ken Gerhard, and Ken, we put on 2 conferences together. It was a Dogman conference. It was my conference, but he was a big help. He's been a really good friend of mine, and we debate all the time about it. But we get reports, both of us, bouncing reports off of one another. Like he'll send me some of the reports that are a little bit weird, that he doesn't really delve into. And of course, he's into the flesh and blood reports, which on the surface, a lot of things will look like they're flesh and blood, but that doesn't mean that they are. It just seems that, somebody sees something and they're like, well, I think it was flesh and blood because I saw it with my own eyes. But, I do a lot of work on ghosts and things like that too. And I know that these entities will move really quickly and people will see them in the corner of their eye. Well, a lot of times when people are driving, I've gotten reports of people like they'll see this Bigfoot type creature standing there and they can see it with their peripheral. When they look dead on, they don't see it as clearly, or it becomes almost like a cloaked looking thing. And, hunters will report the same thing. I believe there's a reason why they can see it clearly in their peripheral, but they don't see it dead on. That's because their peripheral catches things at a quicker speed. And these things, they move unnaturally fast. You know, if it was just a giant ape, I mean, there wouldn't be this hyper speed that sometimes gets reported. But you know, Ken had said something to me, and it was interesting. He said that he thinks if this phenomena, he was just recently telling me this. He said, I now believe that it's something we can't fathom. You know, and that's coming from somebody who looks at everything from a very scientific angle. He looks at everything from a skeptical angle. You know, you have to be skeptical at first, just because somebody tells you, you know, well, there's something in the woods, you know, and I saw a dark shape. Don't automatically go to, oh, okay, well, it was Bigfoot. I mean, there has to be some common sense and says, hey, you know, like, maybe that's not what this is. And not every knocking and clanking of a pipe or a door or the wall is a ghost. You know what I mean? It's not, because people do that.
Right.
They'll jump to the conclusion immediately, and then you got to kind of bring it back to reality and say, look, let's look at what it could be first, you know, and then we'll say what it's not at first, and then we'll say what it could be. And that's not something that happens a lot of times. People really, they're just like, I know this was a ghost. I know this was a demon. I know this was a, you know, alien. It was a Bigfoot. You know, you got to kind of like wade through that and decipher, you know, like what you feel or what you believe. But a lot of times people don't let you do that. If they want, you're going to use my encounter, you got to say it's this and that. And I'm like, I'm not going to do that because I don't know, you know, and based on what they tell
Right.
you, they can believe it themselves all day long. It doesn't make it true. And then now with the computers, you know, and the AI and the photos that they can just change. And like you said, I know several filmmakers too, and they said the same thing. I mean, there's no going back now. The AI is there, and it's getting better and better by the day. And so pretty soon there won't be, even if somebody had straight on video footage, it's not going to count for anything because, you know, it can be faked so easily. You know?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And AI, you know, and not just that, but there's what, like I mentioned earlier, I don't know if you heard, but yeah, there's a lot that is, to me, in my honest opinion, there's a lot that's destroying the community as a whole, or not really the community itself, maybe a little bit, but the outsiders that are starting to step foot and get into this, the new enthusiasts, the newbies that want to get involved with this. You know, they're getting the wrong aspect of Bigfoot altogether as far as what he looks like. You know, the eyewitnesses describe him in many different ways, but you have people like Mr. Sonny Vader, who uses the same Bigfoot in all his films. Some of his videos have gone viral, being shared by others, and you know, it's being put out there, and people are believing it. And then again, some people see right through a lot of that stuff. So, but yeah, there's a lot of
Absolutely.
fake stuff out there. Some of it's very obvious, but you know, it's sad that we're in competition against us, against a lot of this hoaxing, because there's a lot of us, regardless of what that truth is, we want people to realize there's a lot of fake stuff in this too, that it's hard to weed through, you know. So, but
Yes.
of course, you
And
know, a lot
you
of the hoaxing. Go ahead.
I was going to say, you made a really good point today. I saw the post that you put in your group, and I thought it was a great example. Can you just basically tell the people what that post was that you made in your group today about pareidolia and how people can often
Oh,
misidentify different things in pictures and think it's cryptids?
yeah. Well, I've done other similar things in the past, but yeah, that one there, I've had that up for a few days. But basically, images, like, you know, I could, even though I have a really good phone that takes high quality images now, I can still do something. I can take pictures of the forest with, for example, you get the foliage, you get trees, then you got a stump in the background that has a very interesting shape that looks like it could be a figure of some sort, you know, maybe with a head and shoulders. If you zoom in on that, where your pixelation, a lot of people don't understand that pixelation is created from over zoomed images, and then after you've taken that picture, or even from a lot of it's from film, video footage, you do screenshots of something, and then you still zoom in. Pixelation gets created where the details of what's in that image gets distorted. Yes, it's going to create pareidolia, but then if you do a comparison photo of what, if you actually walk up to what you're taking a picture of and see that it's none other than, for example, what you've seen in my group, it's clearly just an odd shaped stump. You know, unfortunately, that's the same thing that's happening in a lot of things. I mean, when people upload videos to YouTube, unless you have certain settings set on your uploads, what you might have the clearest video footage ever, but when it gets uploaded to YouTube uploads it to a lower grain quality image. You know, so you're going to have some distortion right there just from YouTube video upload. Like one of my recent field video of me and my girlfriend doing our follow-up investigation. Yeah, not all of it. Some of it's very clear, but there's some of it that gets distorted. You know, but that's from the YouTube upload. You know, so yeah, that's something people got to be aware of, because a lot of people will take screenshots of other people's videos and think, look, there's this, there's that. You know, they're pointing out what they think might be a Bigfoot or a dog man or something. You know, and the thing is, it's funny because I get a lot of people do that to my videos, but I was like, I have to kindly tell them and object to that. It's like, well, look, I remember everywhere I went, and I can tell you exactly what that was. You know, and it's not always easy for me to have to go back to that location just to show them, look, this is what you think this was. Well, look at it up close; it's still here. You know, So yeah, there's a lot of pareidolia, and again, a lot of that comes from pixelation and distortion from videos and pictures being over zoomed in and cropped. It's a very common phenomenon that people tend to think there's something there when it's not really. I mean, I'll give you an example. Some years ago, just for fun, because back when a lot of people were taking pictures of bushes and putting circles on them. Well, I went up to one of the bushes that used to be up against the house. And I got up so close to it, took a picture. Picture looked clear. Then I was like, all right, now let me zoom in. And I zoomed in on it. And I took another picture of it. It became distorted. And I posted it. And, oh, man, did people have a field day with that? They had fun with it. They found faces in it. They found this in it. Then I did another comparison where, here, I did a clear shot of the photo. I shared that later. I said, this is the picture that everyone said there was faces and there was something living in here. Where the bush itself was, you could almost see through it. But being that it was an up close picture and I zoomed in and the pixelation got created with the distortion, pareidolia got created as well. I've done that a long time ago just to prove a simple point. So, we have to be careful with what we claim. So,
Josh, did you want to say anything real quick? So I know you got like 3 minutes before you get ready to go on the impromptu show. Did you have anything?
Yeah, I'm still driving until I can get to the studio. Trying to get up there, but I had to drop off the guard.
Okay.
But I was listening to a little bit. I didn't get a whole bunch.
Y'all have any more questions? Get them in.
Daniel, I wanted to ask you. So you've taken. I don't know.
All right. Well, I wanted to go on and ask. Did you have any? Oh, go ahead.
Oh,
go ahead, Josh.
Can you hear me? Okay. So I was going to ask Daniel. Do you have what you believe is video footage of Bigfoot?
I personally do not. Although in a few of my videos, I've had other people claim that I have them in there. I can't say for sure that I actually have footage of them. There is one or two that I question myself. Could that be? I've been in the woods. I've had experiences while I was filming, but there's one that I have that it's inconclusive. I wouldn't say that it is, but there's a part of me that wants to believe that it could be. But like I said, some of them look like they're big, large, dark beings looking or peeking behind trees. I've captured eye shine on video at night. So I hope to capture something one day on video. I think it would be cool, regardless if it's. I mean, I hope it's, you know, definitive enough to say, yeah, that's a Bigfoot or whatever. You know, I hope to have that one day.
Well, I have a question. Oh no, okay. So I got a question in regards to that, Daniel. If you like, cause you're pretty open about, look, you don't say that that's what this is, and that's good that you're not saying that because you don't know. So you're trying to be evidence based. But after 70 years, I mean, how long has it been since, what, 80 years maybe? No, I guess 80 years since the days of the Four Horsemen of, the Bigfoot. You're looking at like, going way back, like World War II, like these guys started doing what they did. And of course you had hoaxers and then you have people who want to believe, and that's where a lot of the hoaxing comes from. And it has been aimed more toward the flesh and blood side, because the hoaxing, they want to believe, that this is real. So they use gorilla masks and all kinds of other stuff. A lot of people believe in the Patterson-Gimlin film. I personally, I kind of did when I was younger, and then I started looking at it, and now I really don't, just because I know the nature of the people that were, whatever. But it's like the Holy Grail, and flesh and blood Bigfooters will fight you tooth and nail to say that is proof. I don't personally believe it's proof. I don't think it's conclusive in any shape or form. It looks like the suit is even in pieces. It doesn't look. I mean, like I have to say, I don't really believe it. But that's my opinion, and I don't fight with people about it. If they want to believe it, that's okay with me. I don't try to convince people anymore or try to talk about that but I just don't think that there's really any conclusive evidence, to say that this is a flesh and blood creature. I think if it was, I think we would have a lot more evidence at this point. As many people are out there looking for it, and some of them are really good people. I know a lot of people who are out there doing it, and they're just not finding much at all. I mean, you have a few tracks here and there, but for the most part, I mean, it's been 70 years conservatively of us not finding anything. I mean, so that kind of has to make some kind of difference. I mean, a little, right? I mean, at some point you have to go, okay, we're not looking in the right direction. Maybe this is something else, And I'm not going to sit here and just say, well, it's absolutely, flesh and blood's gone. It's just spirit, whatever, because it does do things that mimic flesh and blood behavior. But at some point you have to concede that it's just the evidence is not there. And if you're looking at it from a purely evidence-based standpoint, it would not exist. It's just not there. But we know it exists. I mean, because you have thousands upon thousands of people who reported in some form or another, whether it's a flesh and blood or a spiritual type encounter. But I just think that there's, where there's smoke, there's fire. So I do believe that it exists. There's something there. We're just not finding the evidence. And I don't know that we ever will. I just, at this point, if you're a gambling man, you're going to put the money on that. You're not going to find anything, it's from a flesh and blood standpoint. So there will never really be any evidence. I just don't see it. I can't see it happening.
Right. No, I mean, I have to honestly agree with you on a lot of this, because, like I said, and just because I personally have not experienced anything out of what we call the normal or the norm, I'm gonna, continue down the road I'm on, because, my biggest thing is, and I tell a lot of people this because I get questioned a lot by, younger people or new people, even adults that want to get involved with the Bigfoot research in general. I keep it basic with them. And the one thing I tell them is, you know what, you got to love the outdoors, and you got to love, just being out there. You got to have fun with it, and that's been a big part of this. I've learned a few things more, even in my adult life. I've learned a lot of things being more out in the outdoors, even though I grew up in the outdoors as a young child. It's been educational, and that's a big part of what I do. Especially when I go to a lot of these events, I do a lot of presentations, and I like to present things in the wildlife sense, because there's a lot of wildlife education that needs to be put out there as well. And the reason I do that is because a lot of what people point fingers at and contributed to Bigfoot behavior. Well, there's a lot of our wildlife that's very what's the way? There's a lot of our wildlife that's responsible for a lot of what we're pointing fingers at when it comes to Bigfoot or any other cryptid. But so I do a lot of this based off of wildlife education too, and to spread awareness of that as well. But yeah, to me, it's all about fun. I mean, I'm going to continue to do a lot of this, and I'm going to hope that I do experience something other than seeing something more than flesh and blood. I really want to. To be honest with you, and I feel like by keeping an open mind and considering that there's something more out there than the flesh and blood side of all this, even though over the years I've been very objective on a lot of stuff, but as I told my girlfriend and several others, if I experience something that what other people claim that is in whatever you want to consider it, well, as what a lot of them call the woo, I'm not afraid to admit that, hey, if I see something or experience something, I will gladly, openly, and honestly admit to it that I saw this or experienced this or that. And I won't care who believes me. But I'm going to keep at it. I'm going to keep at it because we're like, I think Bettina said this in the beginning. I mean, we could agree to disagree, but at the same time, we're all in this together in one way, shape, or form. So yeah, absolutely.
We're all trying to learn, and if the powers would just come out and start telling us the truth about what. I was just saying, if the powers that be would just come forth and tell us what these things are and just stop suppressing the information and stop hiding it, then it wouldn't be an issue. I feel like they have bodies, and I'm gonna let Josh say what he wants to say too, but I feel like they have bodies. I feel like they have living and dead, and I feel like they know way more than what they're telling us, just based on some of the things out of the national parks and different areas like that. I feel like that there's a protocol for covering this, and in some of these state and national parks, they also have signs in some of these parks that say, "Be careful, Bigfoot sightings are taking place here." And I find that strange for them to even bring that up if this is something that they say doesn't actually exist.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I'm actually glad you.
Oh, no, go ahead, Daniel. You go first.
No, I'm glad you brought that up because I've actually been in a lot of discussions about that, and this is just my honest opinion. Or as far as any government authorities, I believe that there's a possibility that they have bodies as well, and they know something. But why are they not admitting to something like that? It's just like even here on the East Coast in the state of Virginia and surrounding states, Kentucky, Tennessee, North Carolina, and so forth. We have mountain lions, but you know what? The local authorities are going to deny that we have them here. They are here. I witnessed one in my own area in Virginia. I know I spoke to several eyewitnesses. A lot of them responded to one of my old blogs on my blog site. There are mountain lions, but same thing, Bigfoot, mountain lions. Why are they not admitting they're here? My thing is, it's a fear factor. If they would admit that we do have mountain lions in our state forest and in our state parks, and what would that do to the people that are spending money to go spend time and dedicate their time and recreation in these areas? It's going to create fear, and people are going to stop going to these areas because, oh no, there's a mountain lion. There's mountain lions that roam these woods. Almost every game warden I talk to, they almost say the same exact thing. They're like, there's a rehearsal there. It's like they have a protocol script. So I think that's a lot to do with it. The other thing is, in my honest opinion, is the economy. So I kind of almost covered that in that little segment there. If you look back, I like to use this as an example: the spotted owl. Look what happens when it was officially discovered and put on the endangered species list. It shut down the whole logging industry out west, put people out of work.
Oh my God.
So, yeah, the economy. And the spotted owl, it's only a little thing. I mean, it's a small little owl bird. That little thing put a lot of people out of work. And it halted that economy out there. Logging is a big part of the United States. I mean, we have it here on the East Coast, but it's probably more popular out west, you know. However, think about if Bigfoot was declared an existing species. You know, we know that, you know, we believe that they live in our woods, you know, in the various forests throughout North America. Um, if he was to ever be declared an endangered species, I mean, I think that would put a hurting on the economy as well as adding the fear factor in the mix of all this. I mean, that's just my take on it. I mean, maybe there's a whole different view on that, but that's just the way I look at it, you know. So,
well, hey, Daniel and Bettina, it was good
All
talking
right,
to y'all.
y'all.
I got to run. I'm going to go jump on Impromptu Truth. So you guys will run me down. So whenever y'all guys are done, anybody who's in the chat, if you guys want to go check out Truth's
All right.
channel, Impromptu Truth, I'll be on there talking and doing whatever. So Daniel, it was good talking to you. Reach out to me, man, if you want to do some work or something. I wouldn't mind having a more in-depth conversation with you on my end.
oh yeah, absolutely. I'll be more than glad to. I mean, as right now, I got time, you know. So yeah, anytime. Yeah, absolutely. I'm totally down for that. So
Yeah, and Bettina, I'll see you. And I guess if you want to
All
jump
right.
in over there
I'll
too,
be over
let me
there
know.
shortly.
Okay, I'll see you guys. Y'all have a good night. Goodbye.
you too. Thank you, Josh.
I will.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're getting ready to shut down. All right, and Daniel, before we cut out, I wanted to let you go ahead and basically, if you want to go ahead and tell everybody about your Facebook group, your channel, and also I saw on your group today, tell them about the conference that y'all have in Virginia as well.
Oh yes, absolutely. Well, for starters, I know I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, but I see Sue G on the chat. She's from Pennsylvania here.
Yeah.
Well, I'm hosting two different events. I host my ECBRO Virginia Bigfoot Conference every June in the state of Virginia. However, there is a new event that's taking place here in Pennsylvania a month before that. It's our Pennsylvania Myths and Legends Festival. And right now we already have 23 vendors for that. And then we got a little bit of entertainment in that. We got food trucks already signing up. And I think that's going to be a great event. It's already looking to be huge. So I have a Facebook event page for that itself. And that's happening May 25th of 2024. And then the June event, it's a 2-day event happening June 14th and 15th in Wares Cave, Virginia. We have a Facebook event page for that, and I have a website for that as well, vabigfootcon.com. So I encourage you guys to check that out. The events are going to be fun. We got guest speakers lined up for both events. Also, I have my YouTube channel. If you want to check it out, two of my most recent uploads of my field video. I've the first one is called Surrounded by Bigfoot, a Pennsylvania investigation. And my recent one I just put up yesterday is, I forget how I title it, Visited by the Unknown. So that was actually a follow-up video to our most recent one. We will have, we plan, even though it's going to be cold, we plan on going out over the next few days back to that location. Not at the very location, but right behind there. There's another area we want to hang out to. We're going to check that out. So there'll be more investigation going on. Me and my girlfriend, we both agree that this area needs more attention based off of what we've experienced out there already. So yeah, if you want to find my Facebook group, my main group is the ECBRO, East Coast Bigfoot Researchers Organization. Feel free to check that out. Also, my YouTube channel, it's a Bigfoot Zone with ECBRO in parentheses. It's not hard to find, so check it out. Again, you could see like I was talking about a little while ago, my upcoming video. So Bigfoot Zone, ECBRO. And I have several pages I own. There's other groups I own and administrate in. So, but yeah, I'm an open book. You can feel free if you want to check some more information out on me. You could go to ecbrofounder.com. Again, that is ecbrofounder.com. But other than that, yeah, I'm not hard to find on social media. So I'm all over. I'm on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. So yeah. So, but yeah, I want to thank you so much for having me on here. It's been great. So,
Thank you. Well, thank you so much for
absolutely.
coming on. I'm gonna have you back on, and because I really enjoyed that, and I think it's really important. I think a lot of us researchers need to start working more. But I'm gonna go ahead and shut this down, y'all. Thank everybody in the live. I appreciate each and every one of y'all for showing up. Thank you for your great questions tonight, and I'm glad y'all really enjoyed Daniel. I enjoyed this as well. I didn't even do a pre-interview with Daniel, so I got to hear a lot of this information same time as y'all. So I enjoyed it even more than I do a lot of shows. So. But with that being said, y'all have a good night and thank you. And I will announce the next show within the group, or I'll make a post on YouTube to let y'all know. But thank y'all, and y'all have a good night.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone.